Hello. Oh, that was radical, the volume. Okay, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Judy here of Dr. Judy WTF, and we are coming down to the wire of the end of 2019. And so I got an idea that I would focus the show on 2020, meaning 2020 vision or perceptual vision for 2020 and clearing your cracked lens of perception. And this is a call-in show, everyone, so please feel free to call in. And the numbers changed, so I want to put it out there. 323-524-2599. So let's start with, what is a cracked lens of perception? So in my book, Be the Cause, I define cracked lens of perception, and I want to quote it right here. Childhood wounds crack our psycho-perceptual lens, warping our ability to see ourselves and the world around us with clear perception. As a result, we feel that we're cracking up. So why do we have distortions in perception? Well, back in 1800, Sigmund Freud, who I dedicate the name to, Dr. Judy WTF with the Freud, first identified projection as a defense mechanism, and that was back in the late 1800s. He noticed that many of his psychoanalytic patients accused their loved ones or acquaintances of negative emotions they were experiencing themselves. So cracked lens of perception is just that. It's a distortion. And so how do these distortions come into play? So in order to explain this, I want to go back to the mind map, and I want to break it down and show you why we crack up and why our psychoperceptual lens goes off kilter. So if you look at panel number 1, do you see panel number 1 is the best metaphor I can think of for cracked lens of perception, because I'm going to use it as an occluded eye. Do you see that picture of panel 1 is kind of like an eye, and then instead of having a clear lens there, it's almost like that eye is very shadowed over. It's cracked. It's occluded. And why does that happen? Why do we have these distortions? Well, I'm going to go back to childhood wounds. And childhood wounds cloud over our sense of self. They cloud over the way we see ourself and the world. And I have so many examples to share with you of people that have all kinds of distorted visions of themselves in the world. If you want to take an exaggerated form, then you can take the exaggerated form, let's say, of schizophrenia, where it's a thought disorder and everything doesn't look like what another person might be seeing. So let's say someone comes along and that particular person is in a paranoid state. So that paranoid cracked lens of perception may perceive people around him as the enemy, or he may perceive that there are noises that are transmitting to them from aliens. So this is an exaggerated version of cracked lens of perceptions. Of course, there's all kinds of other forms, for example, body dysmorphic. Another example of a cracked lens of perception, whereby a person looks in the mirror and what do they see? They see a really fat self. And everybody else around them says, "Hey, Jane, are you losing weight? You look like you're on a diet. Are you sure you're healthy? You look a little bit anorexic to me." But yet Jane is in that funhouse mirror, if you know what I mean. You know those mirrors at circuses where you look at yourself and suddenly you're really tall, or you're distorted to look like you're spread really wide. Well, what Jane is seeing, for example, is a really, really heavy person. So what's going on here? What the Freud is going on here? So let's break it down, going back to the mind map and explaining it through the lens of childhood wounds. So what are these childhood wounds? Well, I talk about primarily 5 of them, and they come down to verbal abuse, physical abuse, neglect, abandonment, and smothering. And every time we are shadowed over primarily by our caretakers, our primary caretakers, usually mother, father, or the people that raise us, it cracks our lens of perception because we don't see straight. And another complication of this is that once we're traumatized, for example, if we're put down, if we're manipulated, if we're hit, if we're abandoned, if we're in any form neglected, then we develop something called PTSD, which later turns into complex PTSD because it's unresolved. And so these reactions to these wounds crack us up even further. If you look at panel number 2, I'm going to use it as a metaphor for the shattering. We're being shattered. We're being shattered by these horrible experiences in life, and we cannot find our equilibrium, and we're dysregulated, and all kinds of things happen out of this, including negative core beliefs that encode into the fiber of our being. And so I want to concentrate on that for a little bit because it's these negative core beliefs that we then perceive about ourselves and the world that continue to create the distortions. So let's go back to that example of Jane and her being anorexic. So let's say that according to her, she is really, really fat. That's what she's seeing. Everybody else around her is seeing a thin person, yet Jane looks into the mirror and she sees a really fat person. Well, what happened there? A lot of things happen there. First of all, our society concentrates on being thin, being fit, and also making our images such that they carve off and peel off weight and make us look perfect and unwrinkled and cellulite free and so on. So perpetuated by the media, there's pressure on us to look perfect. And of course, the reward is that if we look perfect and youthful and so on, then we're going to be rich and famous and loved and so on and so forth. And that is the fantasy. Okay, so Jane looks in the mirror and she sees this fat person. And what I'm going to do now is trace it back to a possible cause. So other than the societal pressures of being thin, it may be, I'm pulling this up as an example because I see these dynamics in my treatment room all the time. It may be that her mother put a lot of pressure on her to be thin, and the mother ingrained in her that she was fat and ugly. So I want to show you how this works. It's a very kind of a tricky situation. So now, instead of Jane seeing straight, she's not seeing straight at all. She sees herself through, I'll put this on to illustrate, a dark lens of perception. And so now the shadows of what her mother's messages or her father's messages or the multi-generational messages were is that, Jane, you're fat. Jane, look at you. Look at the cellulite on your hips. Jane, there's something wrong with you. And instead of Jane seeing through her own eyes, what she's doing is she's seeing through the eyes of her primary caregiver. And so when she looks in the mirror, things are a little bit cracked up. They're darker. They're unclear. And so her vision of herself is distorted. So that is one form of cracked lens of perception. I'm going to give you another example of the opposite. Here's another cracked lens of perception. I will call it sorry about that, the rose-colored glasses. So this is an example of positive projection. This is a person who might be a little bit naive, a little bit unshielded from the world, and now he or she is positively projecting the Pollyanna syndrome on everyone and thinking, this person is so nice, and that person is so nice, and let me trust this one and that one. And then at the end of the day, this one and that one might be stealing from her or manipulating her. And see what I'm getting at here? Okay, so this is also an example of projection, cracked lens of perception, because she's not seeing straight. And I think we have a call-in. So hi, you are on the couch. Hi, what is your name, please?
Oh, hi, Dr. Judy. It's Laura calling from Toronto.
Oh, hi. I'm happy you called in. Thanks for
Hi.
staying up
Hi.
and reaching out. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Judy. I actually emailed you today.
I saw that. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Very sweet of you.
Cracked lens of perception. So I just got your book recently.
Mm-hmm.
I just discovered you like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah.
And so my mother is a narcissist.
Okay.
And my life has, I'll be 42 in January.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say I went back to my abuser, who was my mother, because I went no contact for a couple years. And so I went back to her because I was basically in the pits of hell, and I knew that my mother would rescue me.
Okay.
And she did. But so this is, so here we are, present moment. I've gone no contact with her as of December 1st.
So this is round 2, no contact?
Yeah, I went no contact with her just recently.
Second time.
So in the 3 years that I've been... I'm sorry, Dr. Judy?
Second time no contact, yeah?
It's been no contact on and off for a few years. I just didn't realize that I was like, there was a word for it, no contact. She was creating so much chaos in my life and just refused to acknowledge the pain she was causing me. And I was suffering from so much depression and anxiety and post-traumatic stress. So I kept having to cut her off. And so here I am back in the family, but nothing was resolved from the past.
Okay.
So,
okay. And
so she...
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Dr. Judy. Yeah, so basically, my mother just basically refused to acknowledge the sexual abuse that happened to me when I was little by her sister's husband.
Wow. Okay.
And then when I was 21, the same uncle wanted to have a sexual relationship with me, which is when I exposed him because I kept that a secret when I was little because he told me not to tell. I basically stopped him in his tracks from doing anything further to me, and so that was a secret I carried my whole life. And then because I don't have a father, I mean I have a father, but he's been a workaholic his whole life and emotionally unavailable.
Okay.
So my uncle came back into my life, and then for about 2 years he was developing a relationship with me. I thought was strictly from a healthy, trusting way.
Even though he abused you when you were younger?
Yeah.
And
that was just so compartmentalized, Dr. Judy.
Wow, okay. And your mother knew that this was going on?
Oh, that I was hanging out with him?
She knew that you were being abused as a child by him?
No, she didn't know because he told me never to tell.
Gotcha.
So I didn't tell her. But I gave her so many signs something was wrong to pay attention to me because she totally... Basically, my earliest memories of feeling ignored and abandoned are age 4. where I felt just in a world of darkness
And that's
and
when
hopelessness.
this whole sexual abuse began, around age 4?
That happened when I was around 8.
Okay.
But I've questioned if anything further, anything happened earlier, because my uncle was in my life since I was a baby.
So,
but I don't have any memories.
So let's look at this other example of cracked lens of perception. So you said that you were giving your mother all kinds of signs. What were some of the signs that may have been an obvious way of telegraphing what was going on with you?
Well, the biggest sign was I stopped going there. Basically, me and my older brother, every weekend, like every Friday, would come around and we would pack our bags and go spend the weekend there. And we did that for a good year, like a while. And so as a child, my internal, like, by not going there, by not packing my bags, I was convinced that my mommy will ask me why I'm not going,
and she
I will
never
give her
asked
an
you
excuse.
why. She never asked you why.
She never asked why, Dr. Judy. She never asked why I anything. Why I was put on stress pills, because I had so many. Like I was just, my life changed, and I didn't feel safe in the house to tell her, obviously, or I would have just communicated to her what happened. So I felt.
So I wanted to go back to her cracked lens of perception, because she was in some form of denial. You were telegraphing her. Things changed. The fact that she didn't even ask why. It's an obvious question. Why don't you want to go to your uncle's house? Pretty obvious question, no? So cracked lens of perception is just, like what I said when I picked up the pink glasses. But it's worse than just the rose-colored, he's a good guy. It's almost like she blanked out any information. So the glasses were not just rose-colored. They were opaque glasses. She just refused to see. So I want to get to what kind of distortions, if that's okay with you, what kind of distortions that left you with. Because now that you're reading my book, you understand that childhood wounds lead to reactions, lead to encodings, right, which lead to chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. Until we clear our lens of psychoperception, we're going to keep seeing ourselves through the lens of our parents and lens of people that deliver what I call psychoviruses into our brain, psychoviruses messages. So what do you think you concluded from all of the abuse and neglect and so on? What do you think you made it to mean about you?
Well, that I was the problem.
Okay, that's very, very common, and that's so what Alice Miller spoke about, psychoanalyst back in the day, who spoke about the child protecting the parent and positioning him or herself as the center of the bad. The child is the bad one. The mother is clearly the good one, and there's no denying that. And it makes for a safer world, because if you know that you're being raised by horrible, terrible, evil people, then that makes for a horrible world. So it's better that you control it and that you step up and be a good child. So it left you with feeling horrible about yourself, yes?
I'm sorry, Dr. Judy?
Yeah, it left you feeling that there was something wrong with you. Something wrong with you.
Yes, because so when I exposed him when I was 21, she blamed me. She attempted to make me believe that she tried to warn me that I was hanging out with him too much, which was a total lie. And then when I told her what happened when I was little, she blamed me for not telling her when I was little what happened. So she put everything on me, and to this day, to this day, because I just had a family ambush. I got myself into a situation where I thought having a family talk was in my best interest.
Okay.
So I put myself in the dragon's den, basically. My older brother is a narc and a rageaholic, and it was basically my older brother, his wife, my dad, and my mom, and they basically, it was an ambush. I went because I thought we could actually talk about this.
You mean talk about your uncle? Talk about your uncle and what happened to you? And
about anything. Yeah, we've never talked about it as a family. My mother's basically smeared my name, and anyone I've turned to for help over the years,
so this
turned their back on me.
Okay, so this is another example. I'm just I'm keeping relevant to the topic of today. The cracked lens of perception is another example of that. Is that the main the main bee, the queen bee, let's say your mom, is also going to crack the lens of perception of everyone around you so that you go crazy and think that you're horrible and everyone else is seeing straight. So the flying monkey phenomenon is another example of that. Do you see?
Yes.
Okay, so no one's seeing straight because in order to see straight, you know, if we're going to see straight, then we're going to have to tell truths. And if we tell truths, somebody's not going to like it. And I get this feeling, and I don't know, of course, your mother and her history, that she is protesting so hard against the truth that it wouldn't surprise me, and also because of my knowledge of multi-generational injuries, it wouldn't be surprising to me that she was protecting some sort of secret in her childhood.
Yes, Dr. Judy.
Okay.
I came to that conclusion a few years ago because I couldn't understand the resistance around this whole issue, and then it all made sense to me. Because my mother, she's so disconnected when I talk to her, because I've tried to say, like, what happened in your childhood that made you treat me like this? Like, what, like, trying to have that conversation.
You're asking some pretty dangerous questions. Now, remember, if people don't want to budge, if they don't want to grow, if they don't want to self-reflect and self-correct and tell the truth, then what are they going to do? They're going to project on other people. And stay with me as I explain this phenomenon, because if I'm not feeling well and I project those feelings onto another person and accuse them, let's say, of not feeling well or acting nicely, then I'm in a cracked lens of perception, and I'm projecting onto them my own feelings, which is what Sigmund Freud was talking about. Now, if you've been groomed to accept the projections, if you don't have boundaries, let's say, and I put these feelings into a boundaryless person and they say, yeah, you're right, I'm bad, I'm stupid, I'm this and that, it's almost like you're soaking, that other person is now soaking in the projections, and instead of them seeing straight and seeing that perhaps the other person isn't doing well or acting well, then they personalize it and everything gets cracked up. That's why I think that term, I'm cracking up. I'm cracking up. So you see how many ways we can crack up. So I thought for 2020, let's have 2020 vision. Okay, so what other ways do you think you cracked up and distorted as a result of these childhood wounds? And I'm sure there were other ones. So just give us a few more examples.
Yes, so many. That I wasn't, like, I didn't matter.
Yeah.
My existence didn't matter.
Okay.
And I actually confronted him when I was 21 while my mother and her sister sat at the table while I confronted him, and they had made an agreement not to get involved.
Boy,
so
you're a brave soul.
Watched me
wow. Okay.
I'm sorry, Dr. Jude.
You're a brave soul. You kept confronting. Yeah. And then
she had made an agreement that they weren't going to get involved. Although I learned of that agreement years later, because that night traumatized me so badly when I realized that my own mother refuses to stand up for me.
Yeah.
And I'm right in front of her face.
Okay.
And I internalized that, like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough. If my mother doesn't love me, no one loves me. So I let myself be abused by all these men my entire life.
There's the patterning. Okay, so look what happened
Yes.
there. Instead of you seeing the obvious, which is really, really hard to see when you're trusting your parents, you're not feeling like you're in the middle of a betrayal, which you are, by the way, because she's betraying you and she's not standing up for you. You feel that there's something wrong with you. And again, what happens is the eyes of your parents, instead of seeing straight, clearly, and seeing the truth, you were trying to because you kept confronting, but at the end of the day, the glasses would turn. This whole perceptual thing would turn back on you and blame and shame you and make you think that you were the bad one. And that's how horrific it is. So I'm just, you're welcome to stay on the line. I just didn't ask a couple of more questions. I just want to get a little bit more into what are we going to do about this? See, I think we do have another call. So I'm going to take that other call and just say a couple of things. And thank you
Dr.
so
Judy.
much for calling in. And
Thank you.
maybe the
Yes,
next
thank
step, call in, get a free consultation, and you know about the Mind Map video series, and that's available.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So
Thank you, Dr. Judy.
you're very welcome, and thanks for your kind letter. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Good night. Okay, so I know there's another caller on the line, and so, hi, you are on the couch. And what is your name, please? Are you still there?
Hello?
Hi, what's your name?
I'm here. Hi.
Okay.
Laura.
Oh, is this the same person?
No, I have called before, but
Oh,
not in
because
a
the
little while.
other person was Laura also, so this is just a
No, Mora, M-O-R-A.
Oh, Maura. Hi, Maura. How you doing? Okay, yes, I
Hi.
recognize your name. And so tell me how you relate to the topic of tonight, cracked lens of perception, and we're going to move into how do we correct our psychoperceptual lens? That is the question, because going into 2020, I just was inspired because, 2020 vision, cracked lens of perception, the whole world is cracking up and not seeing straight. So we're going to talk about how to see straight into the next year. So just tell me a little bit about how you perceive your cracked lens of perception and the distortions and what put them there and how you're trying to straighten all of this out into seeing sanely.
Well, my question as it relates to this topic is actually, what do you do when you actually do start seeing sanely? And the rest of the people around you are used to you seeing insanely, for example, with the different lenses that you use.
Great question.
So my entire life, was trained by the narcissistic mother to, with her sunglasses, cracked lenses of perception, to view myself through her lenses as fat, ugly, loser, failure, etc.
Yep.
And so, interestingly enough, today in therapy, I talked to my therapist about a head injury I sustained many, many years ago, and that I didn't, at the time it happened, I was wearing a bathing suit.
And wait, I'm sorry, I missed a word. You talked to your therapist about what?
I hit my head back in 2006 and in a pool, and I was wearing a bathing suit. And because I was in a bathing suit and I viewed myself through my mother's cracked lenses of perception, I was ashamed of my body so much that I refused medical treatment.
Wow.
My failure to receive medical treatment for that head injury has resulted in such cascading events of physical and mental illness that to culminating in now, where I am today, that I am so upset that I had those lenses on myself, that my own internal eye inside my own brain and my own thoughts considered myself through her lenses, so that I didn't take care of myself.
Isn't
and now
that
I am reaping
profound?
the negative results of that.
Yes.
So that's one thing that was just topical, weird, that you brought this up today, and I happened to be talking about that. So then you put on your rose-colored lenses, and I thought, as you were talking, I thought, oh, that's not me. And then I realized, oh my gosh, that is actually me too. Because not only do I view myself through her negative dark sunglasses lenses, I have viewed the people around me that are close to me with my rose-colored lenses for them, and been way too generous, and I've been so vulnerable and allowed myself to be so manipulated by people.
I call that positive projection, by the way. Positive projection. They didn't earn it. You're just giving them, you're giving them the points. Hello, you get a gold star. Well, what did you do to earn the gold star? Nothing. I smiled. Okay.
Nothing.
Go ahead.
And so what's happened over the past year, basically, I have taken off my lenses. First, I took off the sunglasses lenses on myself, and I started establishing boundaries, which messed up everything with my family of origin and the narcissistic mother. So, and the narcissistic sister, the triangulation they do, and I've had to exit that family system and go no contact, and that started a year ago. No contact was actually official in June. Like, that was the end, and that's when the rope was cut and the cord was gone between us. Those lenses came off, which were great because it allowed me to establish boundaries there. But then what's happened is now I am dealing with people in my spouse's family who, when I entered their family unit, I was so desperate to be accepted and loved by an actual family with a mother and father together for 57 years. And, like a nuclear family. Like, the vision of it from the outside looked nuclear and like what the ideal would be. And so I just accepted everything. And now, for some reason, I don't know why, my rose-colored lenses that I didn't even know I had are off too. I am causing problems everywhere as I suddenly like myself. I don't think these negative thoughts about myself, and I recognize the manipulation that's been going on and the gaslighting they've been doing to me, and everything I've accepted, all their negative energy that I've just flew at me, and I just sucked it up and validated them and tried to make them feel better. And now everything is in chaos here as well, because they don't like that I'm actually asking them to be accountable when they say one thing one day and say another thing another day, and I ask them, wait, what's going on? I'm confused. And then they get angry at me because they don't have an answer, and then they actually try to get out of the conversation. And,
that's right, because you're rocking the boat. You're rocking their system, okay? Everyone wants everyone to play the...
What do I do?
Oh, that is a good one. Okay, so...
Nobody likes me anymore.
Right,
and my father-in-law actually said, I liked the old Maura. I don't like this Maura. And I'm like, I don't have multiple personality disorder. I'm still me. I just happen to now be trying to participate with you as an adult.
Okay, let me see if I can bring a little bit more clarity here. Okay, so you're growing, you're updating your file, you're wiping your psychoperceptual lens clean, both of the cracked lens and both of the rose-colored lens. So now you're in a different system. Now you're not saying, I'm going to buy the horrific negative core beliefs that I bought into. You're not doing that, nor are you giving people a bunch of points when they don't earn them. So now you're seeing straight. People don't like it. No one's going to like you walking into the room and seeing it as it is and not playing and blowing smoke, okay? All right? So they they flat out don't like it. So now what do you do with that? Number one, I want to ask you this. This is really serious. Do you like yourself better straight on, clear on, or do you like it better when you play the game? What works for you better?
I totally love it. Straight on, clear on.
Well, then
I've been
that's
fighting
the
my whole
one.
life for clarity.
Okay, beautiful. So that's it. Okay, so this is where the rubber meets the road. You're either going to choose to be part of that old system and win friends and influence people, but what kind of friends are you winning? Who are you influencing? Who's going to be patting you on the back? The people that are going to be patting you on the back, are they people that you want to interface with? Are they people that you trust the feedback up? Are they people that you admire and look up to?
Well, not these old people that are coming along with me from my past. No, what I'm realizing is it's almost like a clean out is happening. Every single relationship I've had has basically been me supplying other people in different ways their needs and making them feel better, and me just being a doormat, and I didn't realize it. And so I thought the universe, I've been just watching going, wow, this is really weird. Everything seems to be ending, and I thought that I could work this out, but I'm realizing this isn't going to work either, because I can't have a relationship with people that are incapable of being honest with themselves or me.
Perfect.
And all they are is negative.
Congratulations.
So,
now what are you going to do with
that's
those
it.
people when they're your family and your friends and your, so
Exactly.
on and so forth?
Well,
And
the friendships end. Unfortunately, they were meant
okay.
to be when they were, and now their end has come, and that's fine.
Okay.
The part I'm trying to figure out is, and maybe I just need a little bit of distance from everybody to get cool with myself, like mellow out on letting everyone know where my boundaries are. I don't know if it's just too much for everyone at once.
Look, I think it's a viable option, because if they can somehow grow with you, and if they can understand the benefits of your being clearer and more honest, and if they show signs of maturity, like self-reflecting and self-correcting and owning their own stuff. If they don't,
these qualities do not exist within these people.
Okay, all right. So what's next then? What's next is, I guess you're going to be going to Christmas dinner or New Year's events or whatever. So you have choices. You can go.
No, I don't think I can do those either.
Okay, then there's your answer. Okay. Then there's your
Okay.
answer.
Yeah.
And then this
And that's okay?
well, okay. So remember, I asked you, what do you like better? You want to fake it? Do you want to blow smoke?
No.
You want to do a little bit of people pleasing? You want to smile? What do you want to do? Or you just want to stick with what
I've done that for 48 years.
Then you're done. Then put a fork in it, proverbially speaking.
Okay.
Just put a fork in it.
All right.
Doesn't mean you have to be rude. You could wish everyone well if you want. And a lot of people think it's too radical to go totally no contact with their families. I get this asked of me all the time. And, such a personal choice. I think sometimes it's just okay to say Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, whatever, Happy Hanukkah, anything, and just be pleasant and civil. And then you start withdrawing your energy, because remember, cracked lens of perception makes us vulnerable to being vampired. Because if we're, I'm going back to my rose-colored glasses. Wow, you sure look good. You seem like an amazing person. Well, where did I get that idea? Did they show me that they were an amazing person? Did they do something to make me feel that they were amazing? So now I'm giving credit where credit isn't due. So I want to go back to system gone right. What is one way of clearing psycho-perception? Let's date it all the way back to the childhood wounds and deconstruct them and understand that we bought into a bunch of lies and misperceptions. This is where the lens was originally cracked. Okay? So once we discover, boy, our parents didn't have very many parenting skills. Look what they left me with. They left me with feeling useless and worthless, and They left me feeling stupid and fat and ugly and all on and on and on, and all the negative core beliefs that people carry within them. And then you dismantle that stuff. And that's what the mind map is for. The mind map is for dismantling the lies. Okay? So the cracked lens of perception is when we buy in, when we turn our eyes inward toward ourselves, but they're not our eyes. They're not our eyes. I just was talking about this today in a session. Those are not your eyes. Oh, I think this about myself. No, 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 no. You don't think this about yourself. You weren't born thinking this about yourself. Your parents thought this about you. And guess what? Their parents thought that about them. And their parents thought that about them. So let's look at it as a system of functioning or lack of functioning or dysfunctioning, if you will. So how do we clear it up for 2020? Wouldn't it be very, very wonderful if people can see straight? Because if they don't see straight, everything goes wild. We're projecting and we're projective identifying and soaking in everybody's bad feelings. And either we're positively projecting on people and then we wake up and think, why did we get the vampire effect? If you positively project, oh, that's a wonderful person. You know what? I'll give the shirt off my back for that person. And then the person takes that shirt and steals 2 more out of your bag. That's possible too.
Right.
Okay? Right?
Yeah.
So what are we
it's
doing
like an energy
here?
drain.
Vampire effect.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we have another caller. Is that right?
Okay.
Oh, geez.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So you're welcome. I hope I answered a lot of questions. So I'll just
did.
move through some of the callers. Okay. Thank you so much, Maura. Okay.
Good night.
All right. Good night. You are on the couch with Dr. Judy. And what is your name, please?
Hi.
Hi. What's your name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Brooke. I'm from Washington.
Nice to meet you. And thank you for calling in. How do you relate to this topic?
Wow. Both the previous stories touch base with me, although there's some, I guess, differences in the fact that I think my traumas started a little earlier than just being raised by, I guess, inadequate. No, I don't even want to say inadequate. I guess unskilled parents.
Okay.
In being that I was adopted, and I think some of my wounds come from that trauma and not ever really having a connection with my parents.
How old were you when you were adopted?
I was 3 months, but my birth mother, when I was born, my birth mother never saw me. So obviously, I don't know what really happened. So I was shuffled off to, I don't know, a puppy care center and then, adopted 3 months later.
Yeah. Okay. So, yes, go ahead.
In the trauma of that, I guess who I got adopted by, my adoptive mother, when I was 18 months old, she fell and broke her back. So she wasn't even able to hold me until I was like, until that, from 3 months to 18 months, I guess I had a mother, which I probably didn't really connect with. But then, after that, I don't ever remember her ever holding me.
So this is so sad because remember John Bowlby, father of attachment theory. I don't know if you've read my book or
I do know some of his work.
Okay, so he says that in order to form a secure attachment, we need the consistency and the holding and the eye gazing and the mirroring and the attunement. And, if we don't get that, then we jump to all kinds of conclusions about ourselves. So I'm imagining that you have a lot of conclusions about yourself, and there is that cracked lens of perception. So I'd like to know how that encoded in you. What are some of the belief, the negative core beliefs you have about yourself due to this experience?
Well, I think mostly that I wasn't wanted, and I certainly wasn't. I never felt accepted. I felt always like the outsider. And then as I grew, I came to realize that I was a highly sensitive person within a family of insensitives. Both my parents being my mom a covert narcissist, my dad an overt narcissist.
So
who
Brooke,
also turned my yes.
So there it is again. As children, we don't sit there thinking, wow, there's something wrong with this picture. Wow, my mom, she sure doesn't know how to mirror or attune to me, or unfortunately, she can't pick me up because she just broke her back. We conclude, back to Alice Miller, back to that, I'm the bad child. There's something wrong with me. Do you see how children consistently do that? And that's where we crack up. It's my fault. There's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. I'm not important enough to be loved. You see how that happens? Right there. Right there.
Well, I think I did know when I was little, because she was always trying to make me wear certain things, and I would fight and scream and cry and wreak havoc. I mean, it would be a 3-day battle for me to wear a dress when I didn't want to. And
okay.
So, I mean, I didn't understand what the big problem was, why I had to wear a certain something, which was really difficult for me because it was probably something polyester, given the time. And me being highly sensitive, it was just, was like sandpaper against my soul.
Oh, boy. Okay,
and
so...
she'd brush my hair, and it would have to be perfect, and it would hurt. And she just had no sympathy for any part of me not playing her game of being the perfect little doll that she wanted.
Okay, so there's an example, and I know we've got a couple of more calls. I'll try to make this very relevant to you, is that in my book, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, which everyone can have a copy of, and just request a free PDF. The PDF is free, and the other, the copy that you hold in your hands, I was going to call it the hard copy, but it's actually paperback. You can order from Amazon, okay? But the PDF is free. So what happens is all of these messages, okay, they're just encoding in you. And even though the polyester, well, I was getting at something. Oh, there was a case study in my book about a mother who treated her child like her little dolly, objectifying her child. And so there it was. The disconnect was the smothering and the controlling. And so rather than your mother being sensitive to your needs and sensitive to the fact that your skin couldn't take that polyester, just you were too sensitive for that, she put herself first. So she was needing for you to look pretty in that dress at any cost. At any cost.
Yes.
Okay? And that's where the wounding starts, and that's where conclusions are made. And that's where everything goes wrong. And then when we wake up, like in the case of Maura, she started waking up and thinking, you know what, I don't want to play anymore. I've played for so many years and I'm out. And so I don't care. I can't continue to see my family this way any longer because they're not okay. And my husband's family's not okay either, actually. And so she's just going to stop playing the game. So I just want to tell everybody out there that this cracked lens of perception is dangerous. It turns into suicide. It turns into homicide. It turns into racism. Because when we project onto other people qualities just because they're a different color or different race, these, again, they're projections, and they're cracked lens of perception. So why I chose to do this particular show of all shows at the end of 2019 is because I want to leave people with a message. And the message is clear your eyes, clear your psycho-perception, and do not take your parents' eyesight, psychological eyesight, and turn it against yourself, nor take it against other people. So how do you do that? Step number 1, understand your childhood wounds and how they impacted you. Dismantle the lies. That would be step number 2. Step number 3, take out the psychological poisons so that you don't have to live with it and you don't have to vomit it all over other people or swallow the poison yourself. Number 4, learn how to self-reflect and self-correct and touch into the truth. Panel number 7, the truth lens, where things begin to clear. You're not projecting onto other people. You're not projecting these negative feelings upon yourself. You're coming from the consciousness of truth and authenticity. And that's how I'm hoping everyone will relate to everyone in the coming year. And because the show is worldwide and I promise to go cross-cultural and global, I'm talking to the world. Please watch your perceptual, psycho-perceptual lens and as a gift to our world, because at the end of the day, we're interconnected, okay? And we cannot play what I call the ism game. The ism game is panel number 5, where this ism is better than that ism, and what does that result in is a clash of the isms, and by isms, I mean our positioning. Whether I'm talking about any position we want to take on the planet. And so we can't be this way anymore because it's not going to work. It's going to be a big breakdown, and already we're seeing it. So I'm asking everyone to, on a micro level, clean your perceptual lens. And I'm reminded that I do have a website up. It's not a very developed one, but it's called Healing Global Disconnect. And the mind map was originally intended to heal global disconnect. And so I'm back to the notion that if we would just do our individual work and if we would clean up our own way of seeing each other and first ourselves and then each other, then I think we would have much more of an ability to co-create an amazing interconnected world, which is my dream, okay? Panel 7 is my dream, all right? And we can't get there until we clean it on an individual level. And then we can play a really, really great game of life called Join the Human Race and become humane and co-create with each other and understand that the more we're aligned with each other, the more we're aligned with truth, the more we're aligned with the philosophy of self-reflecting and self-correcting, the more profitable we are going to be financially, spiritually, psychologically, physically. Okay, so that's the big dream. So I know I went off into the global direction, but you see, we've got to have those baby steps, cleaning up our psycho-perception. So I know we only have a handful of minutes. I want to thank you for calling in and maybe take one more quick call, and then I'll move over to my Shrink That Tune. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Judy. And
you're welcome.
Let's erase ism.
Yep. Let's erase. Erase. That's a good one. Eraseism. I like that one. Thank you. Okay. Have a good evening. Okay, do we have another call? We do. Okay, so I'll take one more. I think I have time for one more call. Hi, you are on the couch.
Hello?
Yes, hello, and your name, please.
David.
David, thank you so much for calling in. And where do you live, David? What part of the world?
Yeah, I live in San Diego, California. So I saw you. I'm known as also as Kavika on Facebook.
Okay,
so
thank you.
I'm so lucky to see you. I calling because my girlfriend is both an HSP as well as an empath.
Okay.
And in this journey that I've been with her for the past year and a half, I've really got to understand a lot of her historical traumas. She's been very open and learning a lot of the difficulties in her relationships. With that being said, and I know I'm the last caller, I'd just like for you to give feedback to me, or how would I just say, like, significant others, those of us who are like loving our HSPs, loving our person that we're with, but sometimes falling short in regards to responding appropriately. It's one thing to understand it analytically, and she had such great insight, so she shares with me, her perspectives, and
So
I want to be there.
Okay, so she's the highly sensitive person, yes?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so where is something not aligning? What I want to understand the question clearly. What is the misalignment, or what are you trying to understand more about?
Is really how to respond appropriately, because we want to support her so much and so bad. But at the same time, we can understand critically or analytically, okay, this is this is her natural way of being, right?
Okay.
And therefore, this is her, and we love her completely.
Okay, give me an example. Maybe break it down to an example. Like, how would she be being that maybe it would be different from your psychoperceptual lens? And I know we only have like 2 minutes, but I'll try. Okay, Go ahead.
Okay, so really understanding that sometimes when we talk about a given topic, let's say she'll come at it from with a cup half empty.
Okay.
And without me being so negative, I'm not trying to be like that, but I point it out, right?
Okay.
And it's not me being critical of her, but it's almost anything, and she'll acknowledge it. She sees it like after the fact.
Okay.
But in the moment, she's expressing herself, and I always want her to express herself.
Okay, and how does it break down between the two of you?
Excuse me?
Does it? How does it, or does it break down between the two of you?
Because I guess I can say I'll take it personal, or I might say something back to her like, "Well, how come you look at it like that?" When I should support what she says and her perspective, but it's like, okay, if I was to bring up, like, okay, where's this really coming from? Or we try to address, like, well, can we say something positive about the situation we're looking at, as well as, let's say, negative, right?
Okay, so here's what I would say. Okay, so when we start polarizing, like I did with these glasses, it's all negative, it's all positive, right? Okay, so what is mental health? Mental health is the ability to integrate. Okay, so I think you guys are playing the polarized game. She's being half empty, you're being half full. And so how do you bring it together is try the Peaceful Healing Dialogue, by the way. It's up on my website. You can get there through Psychological Healing Center or drjudywtf.com. Either way will get you there. And just open up the conversation that everyone has a different perspective, and then coming to whatever truth there is about it is maybe going to be a little bit of a discovery process. Where's the clarity here? So please try the Peaceful Healing Dialogue and then get off the polarization of it. Okay.
Peaceful Healing Dialogues.
Yes. And I know I only have 2 minutes. I'm going to go to shrink that tune. But thank you very much for calling in. And if you want to talk further about this, feel free to call in to the Psychological Healing Center. Okay?
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. So really quickly, Johnny Nash, I Can See Clearly Now. I thought that was the perfect song for 2020, clearing our psychoperceptual lens. I can see clearly now the rain is gone. So the rain being all of the sadness and the tears. I can see all obstacles in my way, meaning I'm coming to the truth. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. Those shadows, childhood wounds that crack us up. It's going to be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. The lens of truth is bright. Oh, yes, I can make it now. The pain is gone. So somebody who's doing their work is dissolving the pain and facing. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here's that rainbow I've been praying for. Well, it's a little bit, again, polarized, right? A lot of pain, a lot of rainbows. But when you do your work, there is a clearing I've been praying for. It's going to be a bright day. Look all around. There's nothing but blue skies. I can see clearly now. So it just goes on and on about seeing clearly now. So that's what I want you to do, is start seeing clearly now. So everyone, I want to wish you a very, very beautiful, happy new year. And I look forward to seeing you in 2020. And if we can learn how to self-reflect and self-correct and clear our psycho-perceptual lens, we might be able to see some more beauty within ourselves and other people. And again, if anyone wants a free copy of the Psychological Healing Center's book, my book, Be the Cause Healing Human Disconnect, please feel free to request it. Happy New Year, everyone. Good night.